All right, Kyle, you can begin whenever you're ready.
All right, thank you very much, Jesus, and welcome everybody to the March 15th, 2023 meeting of the CB6 Executive Committee. My name is Kyle Thide, and I'm the chair of CB6. This meeting is called to order at 6:31 p.m., and tonight we are joined by District Manager Jesus Perez. As a reminder to everyone, New York State law now requires all community board members to have their cameras on and their first and last names displayed from the time the meeting is called to order until the time the meeting is adjourned. If your camera is not on and your name not properly displayed, you cannot count towards quorum. Tonight's minutes will be taken by CB6 Assistant Secretary Maura Wong. We will now take attendance by roll call. Jesus will conduct the roll call, so please answer present when your name is called.
All right, everyone. First of all, can you all hear me?
Yep.
I'm just fiddling with my microphone. It was giving me issues earlier. All right, when I call your name, please unmute yourself and answer present. I will announce that there is quorum. Kyle Thide.
Present.
Thank you. Neil Barkley.
Present.
Thank you. Elvia Barroso.
Present.
Thank you. Claire Brennan. Claire Brennan. Right, I don't hear Claire. Folks, I can't see you, by the way. I'm looking at a roll call sheet. So if you're here, please answer. B. Disman cannot join us tonight. Kyle, is she excused?
Yes, she is excused.
Okay. Adam Hartkey cannot join us. Is he excused?
He is excused.
Thank you.
And Claire just joined.
Claire Brennan.
Sorry, I'm late, but yes, I'm
All
here.
right, thank you. John Keller.
Present.
Thank you. Sandra McKee.
Present.
Thank you. Rich Mintz.
Present.
Thank you. Steve O.
Present.
Thank you. Reshma Patel.
This is Nat. I'm subbing in for Reshma today.
Okay. Matt Roberts.
Present.
Thank you. Sandra Sherrod.
Present.
Thank you. Mark Thompson could not join us tonight. Is he excused?
He is excused.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brian Van Nieuwenhoven.
Present, and Gabe Terzo is also present.
Okay. Since you're present, he will not count today, but he's more than welcome.
Oh no, he's the one. He's stepping in for me.
Oh, okay. So you'll be leaving us at some point?
I'm here for vibes.
Okay. All right.
Just for April.
Okay, so Brian, you are not here. Gabe is.
Sure.
Okay, I'm a little confused. Okay, so
Well, let's mark them both as present, but Gabe will just take the lead for budget for transportation.
okay, Brian is present. When Brian is present, Gabe is not, but he may take the lead as much as he wants.
Mhm.
Okay. Mara Wong.
Present.
Okay. With 12 out of 16 members present, and then there's 13 for NAD subbing for Reshma. We do have quorum.
All right, thank you very much. The agenda for tonight's meeting appears on the screen before you. If there is no objection, we will adopt the agenda as stated. So members of the executive committee, if you object to the agenda, please raise your hand. All right, seeing no objections, the agenda for tonight's meeting is adopted. The minutes from the February 15th meeting were distributed to executive committee members ahead of time by the board office. If there is no objection, we will adopt these minutes as drafted. So committee members, if you object to adopting the minutes, please raise your hand through Zoom. All right, seeing no objections, the minutes from the February 15th meeting are adopted. In order to conduct an efficient meeting tonight, let's observe a few ground rules. First, no one may speak until granted the floor. If you wish to ask a question or make a motion, please first raise your hand through Zoom, and I will then call on you and you can unmute. The chat function should not be used for committee business or questions about agenda topics. All such remarks should be made on the record by raising your hand through Zoom, and the chat should only be used to alert us to any technical difficulties you are having or to state in writing information such as an email address or a link that was already stated aloud on the record during the meeting. And just a quick reminder again, we are required by the state open meetings law to have our Zoom cameras on and your first and last name displayed during tonight's entire meeting. All right, I will now deliver my chair's report. I just have a few quick things. The bylaws were passed at last week's full board meeting, and there are two things that I want us to keep in mind on that. One of the things we already heard tonight is that if anybody in your committee needs to be excused or is absent, in order for it to be excused, they first need to submit that to the chair for review. So not just anything is an excused absence. There needs to be, as written in the bylaws, some legitimate reason why someone cannot make a meeting. So I know in the past, we've been pretty loosey-goosey with that. So as we go forward, if someone can't make it to your committee meeting for whatever reason, that will be forwarded to myself, and then we'll determine whether or not that individual's absence is excused or not. The second thing is in regards to resolutions, and this has come up one or two times actually since we've passed the full board resolution on the bylaws, which is about the presentation of resolutions. So while you may spend a number of different meetings in the hopes of putting together a resolution, that draft resolution, if it is to be presented at a meeting, actually first needs to be submitted to the committee at least 3 days before, so that the first time they're viewing it is not at the committee meeting. Now, this doesn't change anything. This is not creating a resolution before something has been discussed. This is about doing our due diligence, and that when something is presented at a committee, that the committee has had time to review it and then have a public discussion on it, so that it's not only transparent, but that members of the public can have some input as well. So this is a new rule as required by the bylaws that were passed last week. So please keep that in mind as you move forward with your calendars and with your workflow. And then the last thing slightly related to that too is, I know I've suggested this in the past, but I really want this to be more of a directive now. For many of the committees, meeting once a month isn't always necessary to conduct your work. So if you believe that your workflow is better suited to meet every other month or to follow some other type of schedule, please keep that in mind, that you can do that. I know some of you have already sort of implemented this where you follow a every other month calendar. I want everyone to know that that is okay. I know sometimes we feel like we have to meet every single month and produce a number of different resolutions. If we are more thoughtful, if we're more organized, if we're forcing things to be put onto an agenda each month, I would rather us follow an alternative schedule. So please keep that in mind as you're figuring out your scheduling for the upcoming months. And if you want to talk about it further, please feel free to reach out to myself and to Jesus so we can manage the workflow on that. But I want to put that out there because I know we've sort of like suggested that in the past, but I want it to be more of a directive now since people have been successfully doing that. So keep that in mind. And with that, I'll conclude my report and I'll turn it over to Jesus Perez, CB6 District Manager.
Thank you, Kyle. Yes, great. Good announcements. I'll just two housekeeping things. One, at the most recent full board, the board voted unanimously to approve the hiring of Brian Lafferty, who all of you know as our liaison to the Borough President's Office. So one thing I didn't mention then is his start date, because it was sort of in the works and we've gotten that sorted out with the Borough President's Office. Through an interagency transfer, sometimes a lot more hoops have to be jumped through. And because Brian has quite a few projects that need to be wound up at the Borough President's Office, he won't actually be starting with us until May 1st. So that's going to be, so just everyone's aware, we're still going to be a little bit understaffed until May 1st, but we are very eagerly awaiting his start here. So unless there are any questions on that, I'll move on to my next item. We were contacted by the Civic Engagement Commission with a little FYI that they'd like to get the word out about. Every once in a while, the Civic Engagement Commission will host a training of sorts for community board members. You may have already received notice about this, but in case you haven't, they will be holding some trainings geared at land use committee members for boards all over the city, but also open to any member of any community board who wishes to become more knowledgeable about land use. The specific land use training is not going to be a sort of one-on-one land use training like you might see at the borough president's office. Instead, this training will focus on equity in land use. They say that they'll consider ways to move away from the reactive position boards typically find themselves in and towards proactive community planning that situates local needs within citywide needs, empowers community visions, and produces more equitable outcomes. So that's what the purpose of these trainings are. So they will be held on March 21st for land use committees from the Bronx, Manhattan, and Staten Island. And then on March 29th, they will have a session for any community board members from any of the boroughs that are not serving on land use committees. So there was a lot, so I'll put that in an email if there's any interest, and I'll send that out to the board members. But I thought I'd mention it here since we've got all the committee leaders here, and especially land use chair. But so yeah, if that sounds interesting to you, we will send that information around to the members and see who bites.
We have a question from Maura.
Yes.
Yeah, Jesus, the March 21st date that's, you said open to land use committee members specifically from the Bronx, Manhattan, and Staten Island?
Yes, I don't know how rigid they will be with that. If that happens to be the only date, I mean, I don't think they're going to kick you out. So if it's better for you to just gain the knowledge and attend. If they do, I would be very surprised, but I guess you can leave. But I would have, when I send the link around, if that's the only date you can make, sign up for it.
Thanks.
All right, and Rich, you have the floor as well.
What time on March 21st?
On March 21st, it is actually, and I thought I had it with me. All I have is the link. I'm sorry about that.
Okay, that's all right.
I'm sorry about that. I should have been more prepared.
No worries, no worries.
I will send these links around to everyone on the board tonight, so you'll have it. In fact, actually, you want the links? I'll give you the links now. So yeah, if you click on them, it probably has a time in them. I'll put these links right now in the chat. Now, as I understand, right now, these are for community board members only, so they're not open to the general public. If that changes, I will let everyone know, but these very same links will go into the email that I'll send out to the whole board. But unless there are any other questions. And yes, I can't echo strongly what Kyle said about the absences. That sort of change, it gives a little bit more autonomy, I guess, to the committees to determine what is excused and what is not. But it does make it that you need to affirmatively tell the office they are excused, they are not. What we don't want is the office to be hounding folks to be like, are they excused, are they not, and like days and days after the meeting. So whenever someone sends you something, please keep it as an automatic thing to do, to let the office know this person is absent or this person is excused. And based upon the way the bylaws are written, it does seem like if they don't write to us or don't write to you before the meeting, regardless of the reason, they are absent. So that may be a good thing to relay to your committee members, especially since a couple of them do have attendance issues, that no advance notice, automatic absence.
All right, thank you. Is that the conclusion of your report?
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Yes, that concludes my report.
Okay, fantastic. All right. We'll now move on to committee business, and we'll start off with transportation. So Gabe, go ahead. And I believe this is your first presentation at exec, correct?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Yeah.
That is correct. So I'm basically going to discuss what we're going to discuss at the committee agenda for April 2nd, April 3rd, and sort of agree that this is correct.
Yeah, so just, give us a quick overview of what it is you're covering at next month's meeting. You don't have to go into detail about all of it. And if there's anything to follow up with the board office, just inform us, like if there's a speaker or something like that.
Okay, so I think the jumping off point for the East River Esplanade is what happened to the dog park, and we're going to have a kind of solution-minded discussion to making that impossible to have that type of honest mistake happen again there. The discussion of e-mobility and bicycle moped separation, Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, we might look into creating some working groups. This is going to be a longer, on a deeper research type topic, kind of like we did with 57th Street. And with respect to 501, I think our work is going to be, one, kind of stressing the difference between 501 and 501A, and then ascertaining how the committee feels about the changes to 501 and what our position should be with respect to it, given the changes made recently by City Council. And that's it. Thank you.
No, I see a question from Sandy. Sandy, go ahead.
Just so you know, I don't know if it's DOT or if it's Parks Department has put one of the water-filled barriers across the entrance to the pedestrian and bike path at the dog run. And there are 4 cones currently located at the main entrance, and then 2 more adjacent to the water-filled barrier. So that's an update to what they're doing there. I also wanted to ask if you were able to get any feedback from DOT regarding having parks vehicles have dedicated space on First Avenue between 35th and 36th Street.
Yeah, I can answer that. So we did follow up with them. Brendan has been all over them and they are not responding to us. And they're saying something along the lines of, you need to pass a resolution to approve that. And we did pass a resolution to approve that. We'll let you know, but we're really on it. Like, we're at the point now where we're like, we did our part. You guys got to do your part.
Yeah.
We shouldn't have to do any more business as a board.
And just so you know, the dog run, they say it was unintentional driving. Not a stolen car, but unintentional driving.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Whatever that means,
Our discussion will probably focus on a permanent solution. We haven't got, we've been discussing it and we've discussed it in front of our DOT rep, and we've had no follow-up from DOT or NYPD recently about the temporary thing you noted. So thank you for.
Yeah, that's what it looks like now.
Yeah, and that's for the moment, that'll have to do. And we'll follow up on something permanent. Like, we just passed a resolution about, hard barriers on pedestrian refuges. So, we'd probably ask for something similar.
Thank you.
Okay, Jesus, do you have any follow-up with Brian and Gabe? You're on mute, by the way. Jesus, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. So as far as any of those agenda items, no speakers, nothing, you guys have everything you need for that, right? Nothing the office needs to do right now.
Yeah, to the best of my belief, the only outside speaker will be Colleen from DOT.
Which, yeah, she's always got a standing invite. So, all right, then no more questions from me.
All right, thank you. We'll now move on to Environment and Parks. Neil, go ahead.
Thanks, Kyle. Good evening, everyone. In the upcoming meeting, we will start looking at our climate plan, specifically where to put composting bins and also determining places where we can add trees. So that's it. And of course, we'll have our Department of Parks and Recreation. We will have Sheena Kaufman come and give her report.
Great, thank you. Jesus, do you have any follow-up?
No more questions.
Okay, fantastic. We'll now move on to budget and governmental affairs. Nad, go ahead. You have the floor.
Thanks, Cal. So we had our meeting earlier this week. We passed a resolution on New York State Assembly Bill A662, which is on the reform bill that's going on about reforming the Board of Elections. So we passed that bill. And we also had a discussion on the bill A1075, which is about converting dwellings in basements into like safe and legal housing. And with discussion there, basically Assemblymember Epstein came, presented on the bill and the work he's doing to get it passed. We had a discussion on it. We decided not to propose a resolution. And basically the reason for that is it's tied to the state budget and it's going to be passed before our next meeting if we had one or the full board meeting. So basically said that given the timing, it doesn't make sense to put a resolution forward. Given that as well, we don't have any near-term business. So as it says on the screen here, we won't be having a meeting in April. We'll resume in May.
All right. Thank you very much for that update, Nad. I see a question from Sandy. Sandy, go ahead.
I'm just wondering if we should try, I know we received a note from Reshma that maybe if the state budget is delayed, that our response could be meaningful for the discussion. And should we try and pass something at land use, which is, we're having the joint meeting with housing, and it involves all of our committees.
Yeah, I think if you guys want to pass something, we're definitely open to that. And like I think we were like as a group, we were generally supportive of like passing this, and we're in favor of the bill. We just couldn't get the timing to work, but it is something that I think we would like be in favor of. I think I speak Reshma there as well, so that's something you guys could do. I know I'm on housing as well, so I know we talked to Rich about it as well.
So when we get to our report, we can talk about it again. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. And Jesus, any follow-up?
No.
All right, great. We'll move to LV, Health and Human Services.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. So in our next meeting, we have a presentation from the NYU Langone on Alzheimer's disease and related dementias family support program. And our second agenda is about a resolution on requiring law enforcement officer, firefighters, and emergency medical technicians to include epinephrine auto-injector device, which is also known as the EpiPen, in their emergency kit, and be able to administer the device when necessary in an emergency situation. So there's a Senate bill that had been passed on this, which is also known the GEOS law, but this law does not include New York City. So we want to adopt this law to become similar, but we don't know who to address the result.
Well, I think it would be to the mayor if we're trying to get it to the city, but we would address it to the state as well. So we can send it to our council members and the mayor.
No, there's already a state law on this.
No, I understand. Yeah, but if we're trying to get the state law to comply with, or sorry, if we're trying to get the city to comply with the state law, then we can get I would just send it to all of our state reps and our city reps. So whether they need to create something new or, for the city, or if they just, amend it or something. Yeah, I don't think who it's addressed to is as important as just getting the resolution done.
So do you think we should present this in our full board meeting?
Yeah, I mean, if you can get it done, yeah, we would present it at our full board next month.
Yeah, we already drafted. It's just that we don't know who to address the result.
All right, so we'll work on that because that's a small edit.
Okay. And our third agenda is a discussion on outreach. This is about the Community Board 6. The updates on Community Board 6 Health Fair. And Jesus, we really need to decide on the location because we only have 3 months left to plan for this. And we need to inform the vendors of the date and the date we have, which is June 10, but the location.
Yes, yeah, unfortunately, we haven't gotten around to being able to go and do location scouting because we have been so short-staffed, which is not going to remedy itself until May. I believe an idea was proposed to maybe have the committee bring forth some ideas with some that they could perhaps find a place that has certain criteria, that meets certain criteria. Did you see that suggestion?
Yeah, but we keep on pushing on this. Can we just make a decision to get the Epiphany Parish Hall?
Well, there were some issues with that one. Is mostly the ADA access to that, but I'll discuss it.
The only issue is about the tables. I mean, we can.
There was that too. I mean, if it's just the tables, then we'll just limit the vendors to the number of tables that we have. You know,
Right.
instead of inviting 30 agencies, we'll invite 20 or something. But the ADA issue could potentially be a little complicated. So, I mean, I can discuss it with Kyle and see, but
let's discuss it offline.
Okay. All right, so that's all for me. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Elvie. I see a question from Neil. Neil, go ahead.
Hi, Elvie. Just a quick question with this, with the EpiPens and having that put in the bags with the MT or the first responders. Has there ever been any thought given to the possibility of also encouraging or asking restaurants and bars to also have an EpiPen on site?
No, there's nothing like that. Yeah, actually, you know what, we discussed about this one, the problem I think about, or the difficulty that this is gonna be approved is that the cost of the EpiPen, which is so expensive, it costs about 300 plus. So if this law takes in effect, that means that they should have a budget to purchase this EpiPen for all these enforcement officer, firefighters, and emergency medical technician to carry epinephrine in their emergency kit bag.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe most restaurants do, but I also think there are a couple of state Senate bills that is more explicit about the mandate. So we can talk about that as well. I'll talk to Elvie.
Okay.
I believe it's Senate Bill 280. I'll have to open up.
Okay, and a question, just to be clear about this reso, this is coming for the May full board meeting, because if it's being passed at April's health, it'll be coming after April's full board, it'll be coming for the May's full board meeting. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So no further questions. We'll move on to housing and homelessness. Rich?
Yep. Since we haven't had a meeting since the last meeting, and our next meeting is with land use, skip me and Sandy and I will talk together.
Okay, no problem. So we'll move to public safety. Matt?
All right. So for next month, so we first have our meeting tomorrow, where we'll touch on a couple of issues. For next month, I think what we'll do is I think we should tackle have a discussion on the our president's plan to expedite scaffolding and get those sidewalk sheds taken down as quickly as possible. I know I know the board has a resolution on scaffolding. From a prior discussion, I think we can opine on this specifically, and if I don't know if anybody from the borough president's office would be interested in joining to discuss the matter, but that would be a guest right there. So thanks to Sandy and others who reached out about that. I know a number of people have been concerned about scaffolding, not only for the safety aspects, but also the quality of life conditions that occur. So hopefully make some progress there. Otherwise, we're going to see what comes out of tomorrow's meeting. If any other items come up, I have not heard back from that group that was interested in presenting about civil liberties concerns about the SRG group in the police department. So Kyle, I don't know if you've heard from them. I don't have their contact info, so if they really are interested, they're going to need to reach out.
Yeah, I put everybody in an email together, so everyone has everyone's information, but if they haven't reached out, we don't need to push, because they're the ones who made the request to present, so.
Okay, yeah, I just want to make sure that I didn't miss an email or that they didn't respond directly
Yeah,
to you.
you're all good.
Okay. Other than that, I think there might be a couple late ads. I know there's going to be some new precinct commanders in the 13th and 17th precincts, should be named, which might be named by this time frame. So there could be some late ads. If not, we might invite them back. That is all I have. I see Sandy has a question or comment.
And apologies, I can't make the meeting, but I just wanted to note that also the sheds have been closing a lot of the POPs in our area because the buildings behind them are being renovated or local law 11. So that's another issue of why we really need them to come down quickly. Thank you.
Got it. Okay, thanks, Sandy.
All right, yeah, and Matt, if you could set up an introduction with those new captains and myself and the board office, that'd be great, once they're named.
Yeah, once they're named, we're still, I know the 13th is a little further along. I'm still working on the interview process with the 17th. So you might get an invite for that.
Okay. Sounds great. Okay, Jesus, do you have any follow-up?
Yes, so just to be clear, Matt, this is how I've worded it, a discussion on the Manhattan Borough President's initiative to reduce scaffolding that remains deployed an excessively long time. I'm not sure I'm happy with that, but it's clear enough, I guess. This is
You
what
could say reduce long-standing scaffolding. To reduce long-standing scaffolding. I think that's pretty self-explanatory.
Okay. And you want someone from the Borough President's office to come and speak to your committee about this?
Yes, that would be great if ideally. If not, I have the text. There's nobody available.
Okay. And do you want us to send any reading material to your committee, like the resolution or do you have to send them or?
Yeah, if we can pull the any prior resos on this, I mean, I don't know that they're pertinent to this particular initiative, but I mean, at least it can show that we've attempted. I know Councilmember Kalos at the time had a bill in the city council. I don't think that actually moved through. But yeah, we could certainly pull any materials and to assist if needed.
Okay, but you don't have any specific material you want to send to the committee itself, right? Whatever the office can find.
I mean, if we can send the link to the text that was sent out by the Borough President's office. I have it, guys.
Okay.
But yeah, that would be the only background info.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll now move on to land use and water. Oh, Rich, do you have a question?
Yeah, just before we go on regarding housing, I didn't want Jesus to think I blew on past him on purpose. I am not ready to talk about the agenda for April because I'm in the weeds. So I'm going to ask that we kick that until after the March 27th land use meeting.
Yep, no problem. And, as we said before, if you want to take that month off and push to a more thoughtful May meeting, that's fine as well. But we can discuss offline.
I have a member who would come to my house and punch me in the face if we skipped a meeting at this point. So,
well, good thing that member is not committee chair.
Yeah.
So it's not up to her.
Yeah. All right, let's go to land use and waterfront. So Sandy and Rich, I guess.
Well, first off, that April agenda, we have only one item so far, which is the Carlton Regency Corporation, who is changing their access actually, it's an arcade under the building that used to be open to the public and they want to close it. So they're going to come and present why that's an issue, why they're proposing that. And I think for our March meeting, which is actually in 2 weeks, I guess, week and a half, Rich and I have been talking together, and I think we will have probably a couple of resolutions hopefully come out of the meeting. As we don't have a whole lot of information on the governor's proposal, but we are trying to get as much as we can. We are having someone from the borough president come and talk about their proposals. And then the city of Yes, I reached out to our city planning representative, and there isn't really anything more developed for that as well. I believe the housing proposals are going to be the last that are introduced. I think the other two initiatives are first. So, and we have already discussed those, I think, in both committees, so we may not have as much discussion regarding these. And Rich, did you want to?
Well, I have information about the state proposal. Sorry, I'm having a little bit of feedback. Do I sound okay?
Sound good.
Okay. Now that budget negotiations have started, there are single house proposals on some items related to the governor's original far-reaching plan that she proposed in the State of the State, the Housing Compact. I can get information about what those proposals are to talk about in the meeting, which I think would be helpful. And if we wanted, we could get someone from Open New York who is following it very closely to speak about the specific positions that have been proposed by the Senate and Assembly. I don't know if we want to do that. That's something you and I should talk about, but that would be very easy.
Mm-hmm. We have sent out the information on the 12 FAR, which is one of the proposals that I think runs through all three levels of government, revising the 12 FAR requirement. So we have discussed that previously, but there's more information. And again, it's a fairly complex issue. It's not easy to come up with a simple response to it.
Well, like you and I said last week, we can write a script for this. We already have my notes from the Housing Committee meeting as a starting point, and I'll be able to work on this weekend so that hopefully we can get something out to the committees, including draft resolutions by Tuesday, which is 6 days before the meeting.
And I think we probably should prepare a draft resolution for the support of legalizing housing, basement housing, just to see if we can get that into the process.
I mean, we definitely have a model resolution on the borough president's plan to work with from Community Board 4. And if we can do one on basements, and then you and I can talk about whether there's anything else.
Great, thank you. I think the other thing that we need to address this evening is the Soloviev, I'm not sure, the letter, and we've Kyle and Jesus and I are going to be meeting, have set up a meeting with their representatives for Friday. But how to move forward? Will they be presenting to the community board through land use or public some kind of a public presentation?
Yeah, so they're a little bit disorganized. So I think we'll have more clarity after our meeting on Friday, and we can kind of proceed from there. They reached out to us about what we wanted to talk about. And of course we said, well, there are a lot of things that we want to talk about, but they were actually the ones who requested to meet. So they, I guess, are figuring out themselves like what exactly they want to be doing with us. Obviously the request, as the CEO mentioned at the full board meeting, was to co-host things. We shouldn't be co-hosting things because we're not their outreach entity. We're not an endorser of their plan. So we'll discuss all of this on Friday, and then we can get back to the full board and to the executive committee next month as well, just because I think a lot of this is a first time thing for all of us, is connecting with them and hearing what exactly they want to, what they envision. So, yeah.
I mean, do we have a position that we are a venue for them to present to our community? Is that something that we?
So, yeah, so I mean, obviously last week we set the position that we're opposed to the casino. They should be treating us as any other stakeholder that's important in their process. So whether it's a semantic issue about co-hosting, we are somebody that they should be updating on a regular basis. And that's, what we'll share with them, coming to our meeting saying, we've held X number of public forums for people to engage with. But we shouldn't be making our board into like their community outreach. If you look at some of the other proposals that have gone on around the city, they've held their own meetings for the public to attend and to have a conversation on this, and then have updated their appropriate boards as necessary. So we don't really have a lot of information. We just know what they are requesting, which he mentioned during his remarks, but we'll get more clarity, obviously, with our meeting on Friday.
So our recommendation is that they have a public meeting and then come to us with the results of the meeting.
Yeah, I mean, they should be, whatever they obviously have hired a government relations firm, so whatever their firm is telling them to do in terms of community engagement. But, one of the things that I'll be very strong about is continuing to update us. We shouldn't be getting updates through articles. So the same way, that we get an ESCR update at our meetings and we choose when and when, if something is too much or too little, they should be coming and updating us on their progress. But we should not be co-hosting things, because we should not be expending our staff time and our volunteer time to putting together events for them. But they should be coming to like land use meetings and updating us on the progress of their efforts, I guess.
So they will just present something to land use at monthly meetings, like we'll give them that opportunity. I mean, typically.
I think that's fair, yeah.
Okay, so we can ask them to attend a land use meeting on a regular basis.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. And that's it, thanks.
Okay, Steve, is your hand up?
There was a committee member that mentioned she was around since when the property was still Con Ed, and how they signed I don't recall what the specifics were, but they signed some official documents, knowing well that the community would be out on summer break. I don't recall the specifics on that. I don't know if we could get a little bit more details, but there's always a concern they might try to, that something like that might occur, knowing that the community board does take a break in the summer. If they try to butt up anything in terms of communication efforts or signing any type of documents, it seems that was the play they played first time over 50 years ago. Can't speak more to it. It was the first time I even learned about it, which was at the full board.
Sandy, yeah, you have a.
Well, I just want to say that the committee member was saying that was the city that did that, not Solovia, not Solo. And again, Sandra was around at that time, but
I think, yeah, you were the chair, if you want to jump in.
Yeah, Sandra, do you have more information?
No, I mean, this is something that happened on a regular basis, where there were certain projects that at the time city planning would try to kind of rush through during the summer months when they knew the community boards would not be so active. I haven't seen that as of late. I think we have a different administration that takes on a more active engagement of the community boards. I don't know that would be a problem, but of course we can convene a meeting in the summer if necessary, which we have in the past.
Absolutely. So yes, it's not Solo that they were accusing. It was our elected official, our city government. And, just to reiterate, there is a ULURP in place that they will have to follow if they do not proceed with the casino. And I think that should be part of our discussion with them, is that we really want something built there. We want that land to be utilized. So. Okay, thanks.
Okay. Thank you very much. Jesus, do you have any follow-up?
No, just for the moment, we're not going to post this agenda, Sandy, because one, just to give your meeting this month a little bit of time to go ahead and happen and see if anything comes out of that. Additionally, the reason this item I ended up on your April meeting is because initially it was for March, but the applicant needed a little bit more time. And so that's why it got moved over to April. I'm not certain that there won't be another such move like that, but just to guard against that, we're going to hold this a little bit. And my understanding is that the first of the text amendments for City of Yes will be zoning for zero carbon. And if they're trying to time it for Earth Day, which will be like a couple of days right before this meeting, this April 24th meeting, I'll have to liaise with you to see whether it's worth it to have that text amendment presentation at your April 24th meeting, or whether it should be for the May meeting, because when they release something, typically there's like a 9-day transfer period where back in the olden days, it would be mailed to the office. And now that we get them digitally, that 9-day period, sort of a holding period, still exists. And sometimes DCP is or is not ready to present right after a release. So there's still some moving parts with your April meeting.
Understood. That's fine. Thank you. We can discuss it the next exec.
Do you have a preference? Like if this thing does get referred to us before your April 24th meeting, even if it's just a few days before, like you want it at the April meeting, or, you know?
I think that would be fine. And we probably will have some follow-up from this month's meeting because it's such a big agenda item.
Okay.
So yeah, I think it's several moving parts still.
Okay.
Okay, I also want to recognize Letty Simon from the public. She has her hand up.
Oops, give me a second.
No problem.
It was my mistake, but thank you.
Oh, okay, no problem. All right, so we'll move on to youth and education. John, go ahead.
Thank you. We did not meet in February. Our agenda has been thrown up in the air a bit by the report I can give now on the progress on the cannabis regulations in Albany, in which I've already discussed with Claire and Elvie. Basically, there is no progress at this point, and a lot of frustration. The enabling legislation that was originally passed by the Senate, a bill introduced by Senator Krueger, has been in discussion among the governor, the Assembly, and the Senate for the last few weeks, and it has not yet come out of that discussion. We don't know what the enabling legislation is or what it will be. And by we, I mean, members of the Assembly and Senate don't know necessarily what it is. Don't know what it is either. So what I'm doing with my committee now is tacking on my agenda to other items that have been raised by members of the committee, and they will be on the April agenda, which unless something happens, and in the Assembly on cannabis. And my March meeting, which is 2 weeks from yesterday, I will be holding and will be consulting with members of the committee on the items that we will put on that agenda. So that is where we are. The cannabis matter is very frustrating to all involved, but it's truly beyond our control and certainly above my pay grade to question how it's being handled at this point. I'll conclude there.
Okay, thank you, John. Jesus, do you have any follow-up?
Yes. So, John, for March, there will be a meeting and it will discuss what? No?
I'm going to, as I said, I'm going to consult with members of the committee on that. As I said, this has all been, thrown up in the air.
Okay,
in the
you're going to
last few
consult with
days.
them by email and then you're going to let me know.
Yes, I'm not going to, don't want to take the time of the committee here to discuss this, but there's a lot more uncertainty here than I'm happy dealing with, but I don't always have control over what I deal with.
Okay, and then April will be TBD until.
Yes, but
March
I'm
happens.
hoping by then we'll have something firm on the cannabis matter. At that point, we might be in another area of wanting to push, but right now we've been strongly advised this is not the time to move for us to move ahead on this by credible people.
Okay,
Okay. So want to move on to business affairs and licensing. Claire?
Hello, everyone. As usual at this meeting, we are far away from our next month's meeting. So that agenda is information. In terms of this month, which is next week, a week from tomorrow, the 23rd, Anton is going to be chairing for me. And he's going to continue the discussion on open restaurants in addition to any applicants that we have. And April is pretty TBD for now. I don't really have much to write at this point.
2 weeks from tomorrow.
2 weeks from tomorrow.
You frightened
Yes.
me. Your meeting
I'm
is 2 weeks from
sorry.
tomorrow.
Yes,
Like, oh my
the 30th.
Yes, you
Sorry
frightened
about
me. It's 2 weeks.
I'm
from
sorry. I'm
No
sorry.
problem.
You do not deserve the scare. 2 weeks from tomorrow.
Took 10 years off my life.
Oh, God. I'm sorry.
No, it's all right.
But if there's anything I owe you, Jesus, I can do it right after this meeting.
Not at this time.
Okay.
Okay, so we're all set?
All set?
All right, thank you. All right, so we're done with our committee business, and we're now at old or new business. So if any committee member has any old or new business, please raise your hand. All right, seeing no further business, the meeting is adjourned at 7:23 p.m. Have a great evening. We're